Before we begin, if you love deeply emotional stories about unexpected moments that change everything, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because sometimes the smallest accident leads to the biggest shift in a heart. And today's story? It started with nothing more than a loose rug on a quiet Thursday afternoon. But what happened after that? Neither of them was prepared for it. Ethan Walker never thought he would remember that Thursday for the rest of his life. It wasn't supposed to be important. He had taken the afternoon off work to help his grandmother prepare for a small community fundraiser in her modest house in Oregon. It was the kind of thing she did every year. Homemade pies, raffle tickets, paper decorations taped slightly crooked along the walls. Comfortable. Predictable. Safe. When he stepped inside, the house smelled like cinnamon and lemon cleaner. Sunlight spilled across the wooden floor in warm golden patches. And then he saw her. Claire Dawson. Already there. Kneeling on the floor. Sorting ribbons into careful piles. She looked up when she heard the door. And smiled. That calm, gentle, slightly reserved smile she always carried. The one he tried not to think about too much. Claire had always been part of the background of his life. Family gatherings. Holiday dinners. Community events. She wasn't loud. She didn't demand attention. She moved through rooms quietly, helping where needed, speaking softly, laughing lightly. She wasn't much older than him, mid-40s maybe. But she carried herself with a kind of quiet strength that made her seem timeless rather than aged. When Ethan was younger, he saw her simply as Grandma's best friend. But somewhere along the way, without realizing it, that changed. He began noticing small things. The way she listened when people spoke. The way she never interrupted. The way her eyes held warmth even when she looked tired. And today something about her felt closer. Maybe it was the sunlight catching in her hair. Maybe it was the quiet of the house. Maybe it was the way she laughed softly when she said she was terrible at arts and crafts. He laughed too, and bent down to pick up a ribbon she had dropped. That was when it happened. It was subtle. A small movement. A shift of weight. The edge of the rug curled slightly beneath her foot. There was a sharp slide of fabric against carpet. Claire gasped. Not loud. Not dramatic. But enough to make Ethan's entire body react before his mind did. He lunged forward. And caught her. His hands wrapped around her arms just before she hit the ground. Her body leaned into his instinctively. Her knees buckled. Her breath trembled against his collarbone. It's okay, he said quickly. I've got you. He guided her back against the wall, steadying her with both hands. She tried to stand. The moment she put weight on her foot, she winced. A soft, painful sound escaped her lips. Wait, she whispered. I can't move. And something shifted in the room. Everything felt closer. Quieter. As if the world outside had disappeared and left them alone in a small, golden-lit space against the wall. He became aware of things he had never allowed himself to notice before. The warmth of her arms beneath his hands. The faint scent of vanilla in her hair. The way her breath brushed his neck as she tried to steady herself. She looked embarrassed. Her cheeks flushed. Her eyes avoiding his. But she couldn't pull away. Not without falling. So she stayed there. Pressed gently against him. Vulnerable. And Ethan felt something inside him shift. Not dramatic. Not explosive. Just real. Real in a way that made his heartbeat stumble. She whispered that she didn't want to be a burden. He told her she wasn't. Over and over. And when her fingers accidentally gripped his shirt, pulling him slightly closer, his breath caught. It wasn't romantic in a loud way, but it was undeniable that he helped her move slowly, step by step, her hand gripping his arm, his palm steady at her back. Every small flinch made him pause. Every tremor in her ankle tightened something in his chest. When they finally reached the sofa, he lowered her gently. Relief washed across her face. And just as he was about to ask if she needed water, the front door opened. His grandmother returned. Cheerful. Unaware. Claire immediately let go of his arm. Smoothed her blouse. Tucked her hair behind her ear. Ethan stepped back. But his heartbeat hadn't slowed. Not even close. When his grandmother left again to get ice from the neighbor's freezer, silence returned. Claire looked at him. Really looked at him. "Thank you for catching me," she said softly. This time, her voice carried weight. Meaning. Emotion she hadn't shown before. He nodded, unsure what to say without revealing too much. Because something about that moment against the wall had changed something between them, and neither of them knew what to do with it. Later, when they were alone again, she admitted something quietly. "I hate moments like this," she said. "I don't like depending on people." There was history in her voice. Loneliness. Strength built from necessity. Ethan leaned forward slightly. "It's okay to lean on someone," he said gently. "Even strong people need that." She looked at him differently then. As if no one had told her that in a long time. A few minutes later, she tried to stand again. Determined. Independent. Her foot touched the floor. Pain shot through her ankle. She stumbled and grabbed his shirt instinctively, pulling him close. "My ankle," she whispered shakily. He steadied her again. Closer this time. More protective. And this time, neither of them pretended it was just about balance. Her hand remained on his chest longer than necessary. His hand stayed at her waist a second too long. Time slowed. Breath mixed. Something fragile hovered between them. Maybe ever. When the house quieted once more, Claire admitted something that surprised him. "I've been feeling lonely lately." Not because she lacked people, but because she always felt like she was in the background of everyone's lives. Helping. Supporting. Never being supported. Ethan listened carefully and told her something honest. "You don't belong in the background." Her eyes shimmered slightly. "I'm not used to people noticing me," she said. "I've always noticed you," he replied softly. And that was the moment everything changed. The air thickened. Not uncomfortable, but full. Full of possibility. Full of fear. Full of unspoken truth. She started to say something, gathering courage. But his grandmother called from outside. The spell broke. Ethan stood. But before he left the room, he looked back. Claire was watching him. Not hiding it. Not looking away. And for the first time, neither of them pretended they didn't feel it. Later that evening, after the fundraiser decorations were finished and the sun had dipped below the trees, Ethan helped Claire carefully to her car. She leaned on him again. Not because she had to, but because she allowed herself to. At the car door she paused, looked at him, and said quietly, "Today surprised me." He smiled. "Me too." There was a long pause. Then, softly, "Maybe we shouldn't let it end as just a surprise." Her eyes searched his. Hopeful. Cautious. He didn't hesitate this time. "I'd like that." And for the first time that day, the moment didn't feel accidental. It felt intentional. Sometimes, it only takes one small accident to show us what we've been too careful to notice. And sometimes, catching someone before they fall means you finally let yourself fall too. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more emotional journeys like this. Might surprise you too. That night, Ethan didn't sleep much. Not because he was confused, but because for the first time in a long time, he felt certain. Certain that something had shifted. And certain that he didn't want to ignore it. The next morning, Claire woke up to the dull ache in her ankle, and the even stronger ache in her thoughts. She replayed everything. The fall. His arms around her. The way he looked at her. Not with pity, not with politeness, but with something steady and intentional. She told herself it was just the situation. Just vulnerability. Just a moment. But moments like that don't stay small. They grow. The message. Around 10 a.m. her phone buzzed. "Ethan, how's your ankle this morning?" Simple. Safe. But it made her smile. She stared at the screen longer than necessary before replying. Still attached. Slightly dramatic, but stable. He responded almost instantly. "Good. Because I was thinking, you might need help with groceries today." She hesitated. This was the part she usually avoided. Depending on someone. Letting them in. But yesterday had already cracked something open. I won't say no this time, she typed. And for the first time in years, saying yes didn't feel like weakness. It felt like trust. The visit. When Ethan arrived, he didn't rush inside. He knocked, waited, gave her the space to choose. She opened the door slowly, balancing carefully. He noticed the small details again. The way she steadied herself, the way she tried not to make it obvious she was in pain. Doctor says you need rest, he said lightly. Doctor, she raised an eyebrow. Me, he replied. And she laughed fully this time. It was the first real laugh he'd heard from her in years. Yesterday scared me, she admitted. The fall, he asked gently. She shook her head. No. Needing someone. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he asked softly, what's so dangerous about that? She looked down at her hands. When you get used to doing everything alone, letting someone help feels like giving them the power to leave. That landed between them. Honest. Unfiltered. Real. Ethan leaned forward slightly. Or, he said quietly, it's giving someone the chance to stay. Her eyes lifted to his. And something fragile steadied. The decision. There was no dramatic confession. No sadenquis. No sweeping declaración. Just clarity. I don't want yesterday to be just a moment, he said. She searched his face. You're not confused, she asked. No, he answered. Are you? She exhaled slowly. I'm scared, she admitted. That's okay, he said. I'm not going anywhere. And this time, she believed him. 1 week later, her ankle was healing, but something else had already begun. They started slow. Coffee visits. Long walks once she could manage. Conversations that stretched past midnight. No rusing. No pressure. Just two people choosing each other, deliberately. One evening, as they sat on her porch watching the sun dip behind the trees, Claire smiled softly. You know, she said, if I hadn't slipped. He looked at her. You would have eventually, he teased. She nudged him gently. I mean it. If I hadn't fallen. He reached for her hand. This time on purpose. Then I would have found another reason to catch you. And she didn't let go. Closing. Sometimes love doesn't arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives disguised as a loose rug. A twisted ankle. A quiet afternoon. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone stay.